Chris joins us now from Mexico City. Chris, just amazing how hopeful that mother is. Tell us what the scene is like in Mexico City right now where you are.
Well, that mom is really a good example of what we are seeing here. There is tremendous hope despite this becoming more of a grim situation by the hour. Where we are, where that mom is camped out, is this building here. This was an office building, used to be an office building. We don't know how many people may have been inside there or how many people might be in there right now in terms of victims or survivors. But what I can tell you is that mom is not alone. There are a lot of family members here camped outside while those rescue workers you see up top there evaluate this situation, look for clues, look for signs of life, because they just want to know if their loved ones are okay. And so many of them have tremendous faith that the loved ones that were there in this building are still in there alive and okay. The problem, of course, being here and in other scenes is that it has now almost been 48 hours since this earthquake. And the more time that passes, the more difficult it becomes to find survivors, Stephanie.
The weather looks okay where you are now, Chris, but I understand that earlier the weather was affecting these rescue efforts. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, in fact, we were here at this exact spot last night when the skies just opened up over us and it was pouring rain. We had hail. Probably about 15-20 minutes of that. That didn't stop the work here. That's not stopping the work around the city, but it slows it down significantly. And there is rain in the forecast later today and again tomorrow. So the hope is that while we have these dry conditions right now, that this is what we're going to see sticking around for a bit, because it gives these rescue workers more time. It buys them that time that they need to evaluate these buildings. And keep in mind, we're talking about at least 38 buildings in Mexico City alone that have collapsed. So it's not just one or two sites we're dealing with here. It's a lot of areas where they're looking for survivors. Including
that collapsed school, Chris. Are children still believed to be trapped in that school?
They are. We mentioned that 12-year-old girl that they have seen her fingers there, and that's really captivated a lot of people here. They're watching that very closely. From what we understand at this point, they've had to kind of slow down their work there because there is tremendous concern that that building, what's left of it, is not stable. So they want to make sure that whatever they do there doesn't cause what's left of that structure to come tumbling down. And as we mentioned there in that story, it's not just this girl. They've used thermal cameras, and they believe that there are at least 2 other children in there that are alive. So that is something that they have a tremendously large group of folks working right now. But again, you know, the clock is ticking on these situations, and they have to do it very delicately, but they also know they're running out of time. So it puts these rescue workers in a very tough situation.
Yeah, and dangerous as well for the rescue workers who have to go into these collapsed buildings. One more question. It's the worst earthquake to hit Mexico City in decades. Do people feel the city was prepared?
You know, that really depends on who you ask. You have people who lived through the 1985 earthquake, that 8.0 earthquake, and they remember that well. And then you have a younger generation who have never seen anything like this before. It's interesting as you go from one part of the city to the next, how some areas you see nothing, no damage. It looks everything looks normal. It's business as usual. And then you go to some areas where you see tremendous damage. So from neighborhood to neighborhood, you get varying opinions on how ready people were, how prepared they were, how seriously they take the threat. It's been interesting to watch a lot of the younger people drive by here, because we're right here on a road, and take a look down this way, and you see in the younger faces this tremendous shock and fear and disbelief, because those younger kids here, anybody who is younger than 32 years old in Mexico, they've never seen anything like this before. So I think for a lot of folks, it's certainly a wake-up call, if nothing else, of how serious these earthquakes can be when they hit.
Chris Martinez with the latest in Mexico City. Chris, thanks a lot.